And I think that what people are worried about when it comes to the trade war is that it could just be the tipping point that would continue to stress the Chinese economy. And, you know, the trade war was really front and center at the discussions at the EU-China summit that has been going on all day today. If you think about it, it was just one day after President Trump had described both China and the EU as foes to the United States that top European officials happen to be here discussing with the Chinese ways to strengthen this relationship. And just this morning, the European Council President Donald Tusk, along with the European Commission's Jean-Claude Juncker, were meeting with the Chinese Premier Li Keqiang and holding various discussions about a wide range of issues that centered on trade and investment. Just a couple of moments ago, the two sides had presented a common stance on the dangers of a trade war, and with Tusk saying it is the duty of Europe, China, America, and Russia not to start trade wars. He added that there is still time to prevent conflict and chaos in a not so veiled attempt at criticizing the United States. Li, meanwhile, stressed the importance of multilateralism, saying that countries should discuss trade issues with all if the issue affects the international community. Now, Tusk has also called on Presidents Trump and President Putin in Helsinki to support reforms at the World Trade Organization. This is what he said earlier today.
We need new rules in the field of industrial subsidies, intellectual property and forced technology transfers, reduction of trade costs, as well as a new approach to development and more effective dispute settlement. The aim of this reform should be to strengthen the WTO as an institution and to ensure a level playing field.
And at this summit in Beijing, the two sides are hammering out details on what they've described as a working group to propose changes at the WTO. This working group was one of the items on the agenda today. Also, the two sides have exchanged market access offers. These are steps that are meant to lead to an investment treaty. The Chinese premier was talking about some of the changes that China intends to make, saying that China will significantly raise its market access and lower its tariff rates, though he didn't provide any specifics. Also, he said that the two would like to conclude the years-long discussions on the treaty at what he described as an early date. Now, the Europeans have been going in with much more optimism for this year compared to past years. In the past 2 years, the discussions have broken down over market access and the Chinese industrial policies. However, this time they were more hopeful, but you could tell that there were tensions in these conversations because Jean-Claude Juncker had said today at the presser that that China knows how to open its economy and could do so if it wishes, which I believe, I was reading it as a reference to the EU frustrations over China's policies.